Hello and welcome to AmeriCorps VISTA and your first day of service. We're super excited to be with you as you start your service and glad to have you joining this webinar. We just want to start with a reminder that we have FAQs or frequently asked questions on the impact of coronavirus on the VISTA program, and those are posted at americorps.gov/coronavirus. And we will continually update these as we move forward. We know that there are members online today from all over the country, and your personal and AmeriCorps project schedules will vary. We will continue to monitor the national situation and update you and your supervisors as necessary. If you have not already, please be sure that the email address you have in your My AmeriCorps account is up to date. I know sometimes VISTA members may change their email address. Maybe they get an email address from their project on their first day or first week of service. And if you prefer that emails from VISTA headquarters go to that email address, you can just go into your My AmeriCorps account, your member homepage, and edit your email address there. That's the email address we will use for all official AmeriCorps correspondence, and we'll mention a couple other scenarios where you might receive an email as well a bit later. But we just want to say, please know that we are so grateful for your service and want to help orient you to AmeriCorps as fully as possible on today's webinar. So let's get started. So my name is Chris Hawks, and I'm joined here with Eric Powell.
Hello, yes, I'm Eric with 2 C's because we're crazy excited to have you with us on our first day of service. Chris and I will be your hosts today from AmeriCorps, and you will also see our colleagues Kyle Banker and Andy King in the chat and the Q&A. And all of our staff and webinar support team will be monitoring the chat and the Q&A to help you throughout the presentation. So here's our agenda for today. We'll talk a little bit about how VISTA began in the 1960s. We'll cover a few key pieces of your orientation phases, discuss your service assignments, review resources, and we'll officially swear you into federal AmeriCorps service. And with an overview of our session as we go through our agenda items, first and foremost, we've asked you to log on today to continue to build connections between our AmeriCorps headquarters staff and you, and we'll swear you in officially in just a little while. We also know that this webinar is a great way for you to meet other new AmeriCorps members and start to build connections with colleagues across the country. We will take time today to reinforce some of the really important details of your AmeriCorps service. And finally, we want to make sure that you leave today's webinar with a really good sense of where to find more answers to questions that you may have. Chris, take it away.
Thanks, Eric. It is a pleasure to give you this official welcome to AmeriCorps VISTA and wish you a very happy first day of service. For starters, we're going to take a look at a few milestones in VISTA's history that led us all to this moment. So AmeriCorps VISTA is at its core a program that expands economic opportunity to help Americans escape poverty. As complex as poverty is, we know that it takes a wide variety of strategies and dedicated community members to fight it. We certainly look forward to hearing how you and your VISTA project will work on expanding economic opportunity in your community. VISTA was born out of the civil rights movement and the war on poverty in the mid-1960s, and we remain passionate about the ideals that founded the program and committed to keep investing in and lifting up all communities in this country. Our first VISTAs were assigned in 1965, and they served in Appalachia, in Hartford, Connecticut, and in the camps of migrant farm workers in California. At the VISTA program launch, President Lyndon Johnson said to those first VISTAs, "The initials of your organization spell VISTA. It is an appropriate name, for you will be opening up new vistas of hope for the poor, achievement for yourself, and greatness for your nation." And the dedication of VISTA members remains a great hope for this country. We know that, we certainly know that VISTA alone can't fix the systemic barriers and oppression that exist for poor people, especially people of color. But we know our work can be a part of any possible solution. Here you see the AmeriCorps VISTA program structure that we took a look at during last week's webinar in the countdown webinar. You can see the AmeriCorps headquarters on the far left with the AmeriCorps regional offices next. In the regional offices, AmeriCorps awards VISTA projects to sponsoring organizations. So those nonprofits and public agencies that tackle poverty in a variety of projects in diverse communities. And within that organizational structure, VISTA members, project staff, sponsors, and AmeriCorps staff all work together to accomplish these types of results. So in the last year, VISTAs raised over $194 million in cash and in-kind donations for their sponsoring organizations. VISTAs recruited, trained, and assigned over 700,000 community volunteers who collectively served more than 7.5 million hours. VISTA members made it possible for their sponsors to serve 2.4 million children living in poverty. And those were in after-school programs and tutoring and assistance in food security. In programs supported by VISTA members, engaged 14,000 veterans and military families in service. And in a single year, over 8,000 VISTA members built the capacity of more than 4,500 nonprofits and public agencies. And this is just a snapshot of 1 year of AmeriCorps VISTA service, and we are so proud to support this work around the country and happy that you are joining VISTA. So let's take a look at the sponsoring organizations. So in the last year, there were 832 sponsoring organizations managing 849 AmeriCorps VISTA projects. Together, the sponsors and project staff placed VISTA members at over 5,000 service sites in 1 year. Of all VISTA service sites, in general, about 15% represent rural communities and 85% represent urban communities. And it's very important to know that there are different types of AmeriCorps VISTA project structures. So some projects place all VISTA members at a single nonprofit or agency. These are what we call single site projects. By contrast, about 16% of projects place members at multiple sites or offices, whether in the same area or across the country. The same project may have multiple sites. And then there's a third project model, which is what we call an intermediary. And that's an organization that manages all of the administrative aspects of the AmeriCorps award and then subcontracts with more than one nonprofit organization to recruit, to train, and to manage VISTA members at multiple locations. And the project models are important because they have a huge impact on every aspect of your AmeriCorps VISTA service. So what we want to do, we want to get a sense of the type of projects represented today. So we'll just pop up a little poll. It'll be pretty quick. To ask if you are serving in a single site project, a multi-site project, or through an intermediary. And just as a reminder, so a single site is going to be a project that places all VISTA members at one single nonprofit or agency. The multi-site is a project that it's one project, but it places members at multiple sites, multiple locations. And the intermediary is a separate organization that manages the administrative aspects of the AmeriCorps award and then subcontracts with various nonprofit organizations, or at least more than one. So we see the results coming in. If you don't happen to see the poll, again, like last week, for whatever reason it doesn't pop up for you, you can type your answer in the chat. And we'll just give it another couple seconds. Looks like most have responded, and we'll close it out. Okay, cool. So we're looking at, close to 60% single sites, 21 multiple, and 8% not sure after that 12% intermediary. So, and at this point, you may not know the answer to this question. So those that answered not sure, that's okay. This isn't exactly a question we necessarily expect you to ask during the interview process. If, is my VISTA project an intermediary? Might not be a question that comes to mind. Maybe it did. I don't know. But it is important to know. So if you are one of those who aren't sure, please add it to the list of questions for your supervisor this week, and just to make sure you're completely aware of the project design, the staffing structure, and organizational requirements, because it can help as you go forward with your year of service.
And as you already know, VISTA's mission is to strengthen organizations that alleviate poverty through the mobilization of volunteers and resources. And of course, supporting this mission, there are 4 key program principles that apply to all VISTA member service. Ending poverty. Every VISTA project and every VISTA member aims to end or alleviate poverty one person, one family, or one neighborhood at a time. Empowering communities. VISTA members live among and involve community members in planning and carrying out their projects. This is often facilitated by VISTA project sponsors, and we all work together to strengthen and improve communities. This is really the VISTA program's long-term goal through learning about values and beliefs and applying good community development principles. Creating sustainable solutions. Whatever you develop or create, it could be a process, a system, or maybe some other types of resources. You will develop them in such a way that people will be able to use them once your VISTA service ends. Building capacity. All VISTA members will increase the size of a project, increase the number of people served, improve the project's efficiency, or improve the project's impact on the community. These are ways that we define capacity and how we think about evaluating the success of our projects and VISTA members. So let's take a few minutes now to hear from you. In the chat, please answer these questions. Which of the key principles resonates most deeply with you and why? Maybe it's ending poverty. Before the session started, a lot of you were very, very active and said that you joined AmeriCorps because you wanted to help people move out of poverty. Maybe empowering the community is a passion of yours through working with community stakeholders, really identifying needs, and putting those needs into action with the help and support of the community. Perhaps sustainability is something that drew you to joining AmeriCorps. Maybe you have an eye for processes and developing them in such a way that they can be used once your AmeriCorps service year ends. And some of you may feel that capacity building is at the heart of who you are and what you do. You may see a project and can identify a plan to increase its effectiveness and engage more people. And based on what we're seeing in the chat, it's a wide range of answers. A lot of people seemingly overwhelmingly are saying empowering communities is what motivates them because it really gives the community a voice. It gives them a chance to take action and ownership of their project. Quite a few said building capacity and really helping the community know what it's doing and literally building the capacity of your VISTA project to eliminate poverty. A lot of more responses coming in, and it's clear that all of you have been thinking about this because these are key principles to the VISTA program for a reason, and clearly a lot of them are key to you and what you bring to the VISTA program because you're so passionate about what you bring. So the good thing is that all of these are important and all of them are useful. And the fact that these resonate with you shows that you truly are a good fit for AmeriCorps VISTA. And hopefully as you look at what you will be doing as a VISTA member, you will be able to pinpoint activities that touch on some or all of these key principles. Please keep in mind that progress in this type of work can be incremental and feel like it is very slow going. It's important to know that our work is not just about fixing stuff. It's about sharing perspectives and skills. The results of your work as a VISTA member may not be immediately apparent, but once you step back, you will be able to see the larger changes that have resulted from your work and the impact of your service. Next, we're going to focus on how capacity building works and what it looks like. Capacity building can be a difficult concept to define and describe to others, and it's incredibly important that we all share a common understanding of this key principle. In the VISTA mission and program tutorial that you completed, you learned that your AmeriCorps VISTA service should focus on building the capacity of your organization and not focus on performing direct service. This is a unique aspect of the VISTA program, which sets us apart from other AmeriCorps programs. Quickly, capacity building, in essence, is about helping your organization do more with what they have so they can serve more people or operate more efficiently. Direct service is about providing tangible assistance directly to those who need it. So we're going to do a little activity to make sure that you understand what capacity building is, and it's called This or That. We'll explore the differences between capacity building and direct service. For this activity, we'll make it easy. You can type your answer in the chat and feel free to use the abbreviations CB for capacity building or DS for direct service. Chris, I'll pass it to you for the first one.
Thanks, Eric. So yeah, first one is recruiting volunteers to build houses. So as Eric explained, please indicate whether you think it's capacity building or direct service with just a CV or DS in the chat. So we'll give it a, maybe 15, 20 seconds to see all the answers coming in. Looks like many have already gotten their answer in. I would say it's definitely leaning CB here, but there seems to be a good mix of direct service as well. Just give it another couple seconds to get our little drum roll going. For the correct response is capacity building. So most of you got that correct. So for recruiting volunteers to build houses. So in this scenario, you're not directly building the house. You are developing capacity by recruiting volunteers who will then be able to do the construction work as well as engage with the organization in other ways. So capacity building is correct.
Nicely done. Here is the next one. Delivering meals to seniors or people with disabilities in their homes. Do you think this is capacity building or direct service? I saw someone type ES, which I'm not going to guess. I'm assuming that was DS, but it could be a really cool abbreviation for some acronym like eating.
Electric slide.
Oh, done. Slide to the left, slide to the right. Direct service or capacity building. Okay, I'm going to stop singing. So I see a lot of people coming in, typing in direct service, a couple of capacity building, some other names that I don't know, and that's probably because I'm not very good with social media or what's going on, but DS Celeste, maybe it's a DJ, I don't know. So let's go ahead and take a look at the response or the answer. The correct response in this case is direct service. And this is specifically because in this example, you would actually be picking up food and delivering it to people. In contrast, capacity building activities would be working to improve a senior meal delivery program, putting together policies and procedures, or developing partnerships to help with food delivery.
Okay, next one. How about teaching a financial literacy course to low-income individuals? So capacity building or direct service, CV or DS. And again, we'll give it a few seconds. As of now, looks like mostly direct service. Saw both there. But another both coming in. ¿Por qué no los dos? Yeah, okay. Giving it a lot of answers coming in. Just want to make sure everyone gets a chance to answer. And we'll wind it down. And the correct answer here is direct service. So most of you got that correct. Again, it looks like maybe 75, 25%. And it's direct service because in this example, it involves hands-on educating individuals. So in contrast, if it were capacity building or a capacity building activity that a VISTA would do, it would include things like developing the curriculum for the financial literacy course or connecting with other organizations who can then refer clients to take the course, or maybe identifying financial literacy experts to advise the curriculum development. Those would be the capacity building side of this.
And I love how some of you are adding in comments about what the other capacity building or direct service side would be. You're critically thinking about both sides of the situation. So here's the last example we have for you. Organizing a fundraiser. Do you feel that this is capacity building, CB, or direct service, DS? So far I see only C's, a bunch of other letters after the letter C, but we'll say they're capacity building. A couple of direct service coming in. Looks like some people are unsure depending on the specifics of the fundraiser, but in this case, we just want to say, in general, organizing a fundraiser is a capacity building or direct service. Give you another couple of seconds to post your responses. I see a few more capacity building coming in. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the answer. The correct response is capacity building. Very well done. Because in this case, the act of raising resources is building capacity. And of course, there's a fire truck outside my window. The money raised builds the resources, the organization, so it can do its work. So thank you all for your responses on those scenarios. We hope this quick and simple exercise provides a clear distinction between capacity building and direct service.
Okay, so just looking at our agenda, so far we've reviewed some of the really important aspects of the VISTA program to help you build out your understanding and ability to answer the what is VISTA question. And next up, we'll quickly review several key tasks to complete during your VISTA member orientation. So on this slide, again, like last week, we'll take another look at the structure of your VMO or VISTA member orientation. And as we discussed last week, there are 3 phases, and whether you're physically on site or teleserving, the structure is really the same. So as a reminder, the structure is also reflected in the VISTA member orientation checklist that we discussed last week. And in case you lost that link, it's also in the helpful links attachment that was sent this morning for the VMO checklist. And you can also see a link right now just posted in the chat by Sabrina. So also as a reminder, you were invited to participate in an online name-based criminal history background check prior to your start of service. So if you have not yet submitted the required information for the background check, or if for any reason you did not receive that email notification with instructions to complete it, please email vistafingerprint@cns.gov as soon as possible. So we'll have that email address on a separate slide in case you didn't see it, but it's vistafingerprint@cns.gov. Or if you, for whatever reason, aren't sure or forget to write this down, you can always email me back any of the emails sent regarding the VMO, and we'll make sure our criminal history team, we forward that email to the criminal history team so you can get that email. And just as kind of a refresher from last week's webinar, we have just a couple of quick review questions regarding benefits. So in just a second, we'll have a poll open up, and please indicate true or false. Just a quick poll. So for this first question, federal taxes are withheld from your living allowance, but state taxes are not. So true or false, and already see some responses coming in the chat. Awesome. So if you don't see the poll for whatever reason, just type it in the chat. Looks like almost 100% true in the chat. And most of the responses have come in on the poll. So we'll go ahead and close that out. We're at 96% true and 4% false. So great job. The answer is true. Vast majority got that correct. So for the few who may have missed it that answered false, maybe you just accidentally clicked false. But federal taxes are withheld from your living allowance, but state taxes are not. Remember that you are responsible for determining if you will owe state taxes by checking in with your tax preparer or the comptroller. Okay, we have just a couple more quick ones for you.
So next, in the chat, take a moment to fill in the blank. If you originally elect the education award, you may change to the cash stipend at any time before the end of your blank month of service. Please be sure to select all panelists and attendees to share your answer. And I can tell you the one number I do not want to see is 13 because you sign up for a 12-month term of service. But I do see a lot of 10 coming in. I think I saw one other number earlier. A lot of people are putting in 10 of the 10th month of service, just checking to see what other responses. I see the number 3, 12, a couple of other responses. So it looks like most people have done their research and got a general feel for the answer to this. Aha, I see a number 13. I know you did that just to make me laugh. Well, thank you, I am laughing. So the answer to this one is the 10th month of service. Again, great job. So if you have any questions about that, you can go back to the VISTA campus and the My AmeriCorps portal to understand the details, but we do have one more scenario for you, so I'll pass it back to Chris.
Okay, so flipping back to another poll question. We'll have another poll up here on the screen, and it's a yes or no. So if you currently have or have completed enrollment in other primary healthcare coverage outside of AmeriCorps, then the healthcare allowance benefit is for you. So if you currently have or have completed enrollment in other primary healthcare coverage outside of AmeriCorps, then the healthcare allowance is for you. Again, starting to see some answers come in the chat, a few, but most are answering through the poll here, it looks like. We'll keep this quick, give it another 5 seconds. I see an Oh, that's good. I mean, that's good. That means it's a difficult question. Good to test you, keep you on your toes. But maybe not, because we'll close out the poll and 84% said yes, and that is the correct answer. So yes, the healthcare allowance. Now that's the benefit where if you have other coverage, you can use the healthcare allowance to reimburse out-of-pocket expenses that incurred, like co-pays or doctor visits or prescription costs. You can use the healthcare allowance. Okay, great. Thank you so much for your participation and your responses. And this will help as we select questions to answer during the Q&A later as well. Okay, so let's talk about some important issues that you learned about in the Civil Rights and Responsibilities course on the VISTA campus. The AmeriCorps VISTA program takes very seriously the issues of discrimination and harassment, so we want to make sure you're all aware of your rights as well as your responsibilities. As you learned, discrimination is when receiving treatment that is different because of a difference in sex, race, or any other protected class. Harassment is behavior that is severe or pervasive and creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment. If you believe that you have experienced or witnessed discrimination or harassment, and if you feel safe and comfortable doing so, here are the steps you should take. So first, approach and talk directly to the person you suspect of engaging in harassing or discriminating behavior. If that does not work, or if you do not feel safe and comfortable doing so, you should speak or talk with your supervisor. If you cannot go to your supervisor, or maybe you do and the matter is not resolved to your satisfaction, you should contact your AmeriCorps regional office. And then finally, you can contact the AmeriCorps Equal Opportunity Program, or EOP. And rights go hand in hand with responsibilities. So while you have the right to a service experience that is free from harassment and discrimination, you also have the responsibility not to subject anyone to harassment or discrimination. So please be conscious of how your words and actions might be perceived by others, whether that's fellow AmeriCorps members, staff at your site, or community members. And as a reminder, the contact information that you can see on this slide, at the bottom of the slide, is included in the handout for this session. You can also find it at any time in the VISTA member handbook, which is located on the VISTA campus, this contact information. And AmeriCorps VISTA is a federal program, and like anything supported by taxpayer funds, we need to ensure that the program is well run, doing what it's supposed to, and spending money wisely. And like all federal agencies, AmeriCorps has an inspector general whose office is responsible for preventing and detecting waste, fraud, and abuse. And most VISTA sponsors are familiar with the rules around allowable service activities and those that are prohibited. And it is important for all of us to pay close attention to these. And there are a few red flags that we want to make sure you're aware of. So for starters, if you are being asked to take over the work of a staff person, for example, someone who is out on extended leave, that is considered replacing staff and it's not allowed as a VISTA. Or if most of what you're doing is administrative support for someone else, that's also not appropriate work for a VISTA member. Instead, you should be focusing on the things outlined specifically in your VISTA Assignment Description, or VAD, which ties directly to the overall project plan that was approved by AmeriCorps. And finally, the majority of your work should be capacity building, not direct service. From your coursework and today's activities that we just did, you have a good idea of how to distinguish between the two. So please pay close attention and follow up if maybe you are unsure about your service assignments as you go into your year of service. If you feel you are being asked to do things that are not appropriate for VISTA members, first talk about it with your supervisor. From there, you can talk with your AmeriCorps regional office. So again, as a reminder, your regional office, your AmeriCorps regional office, the example we used last week with the state initials at cns.gov. So like Texas would be TX at cns.gov, or if you're serving in California, CA at cns.gov. That's how you contact your regional office. If the issue isn't resolved, or if you want to remain anonymous, you can contact the AmeriCorps Office of Inspector General with the information you see at the bottom of the slide. And similar to the last slide, this information is included in the handouts for the session and can also be found at any time in the VISTA member handbook on the VISTA campus.
Since Chris mentioned the electric slide earlier, let's go ahead and slide on over and take another look at the in-service phase of your VISTA member orientation. Today, we are very excited because you are starting your on-site orientation and training, what we call your OSOT, which is led by your supervisor and your project site. There are also 7 courses that we ask all VISTA members to complete early in their service. They are self-directed, which means you do them on your own time, and they're intended to help you start strong in your VISTA project. First is a guide to help you make the most of your on-site orientation and training. There's one called the Minute Intro, and it's an exercise that helps you clearly and succinctly explain to others who you are and what you are doing as a VISTA. The resource on theories of change looks at various ideas about what causes poverty and theories on how to reduce or eliminate it. There's also a great video explaining how poverty is measured in the United States. We also have a worksheet that's there to help you unpack your VISTA assignment description and use it as the foundation for your work plan for the year. The early service coursework includes a tutorial on how to understand the community you are serving by looking at demographic data and research. And finally, there's a powerful video that shares 13 lessons about poverty that came out of the VISTA program. The worksheets and resources dovetail very nicely with your on-site orientation and training, and they can provide structure for the first few meetings with your supervisor. So now let's turn your attention to your specific service in the document that rules it all, your VISTA Assignment Description, or VAD. As we discussed on last week's webinar, each member has a VAD that was created by the AmeriCorps project. You might have received it during the interview and the selection process, or perhaps your AmeriCorps supervisor gave it to you today. If you don't have it, can't find it, you can download your VAD from your account in your My AmeriCorps portal. All VADs include these 3 elements: a project goal, objectives, and member activities. The project goal is related to or identical to the overall goal of your AmeriCorps project. The objectives describe what you will achieve by the end of your service year. They are a bridge between the project goal and the member activities. The member activities specify what you will be doing this year. Those activities add up to the objectives, and the objectives add up to the goal. And because the VISTA assignment description is the starting point for you to develop your work plan for the year, we strongly recommend that you focus on it with your supervisor in the next few weeks, especially this first week of service, and keep it in mind as you move throughout your year. It's not uncommon that adjustments need to be made to VADs at some point during the year to reflect new activities, which can be especially true given the current situation with coronavirus impacting so many parts of our lives. And as we mentioned earlier, there's a VAD worksheet that is part of your early service coursework on the Starting VISTA Service page of the VISTA campus. This worksheet provides a nice framework for you and for your supervisor to discuss your tasks step by step.
Okay, so we'd like to hear from you again in the chat. And based on what you know about your VAD, about your VISTA assignment description, what will you be doing as an AmeriCorps member? What steps or tasks or activities will you be doing to help eradicate poverty and build capacity in your community and in your organization? So again, please type your answer in the chat. And definitely as another reminder, please toggle that button to select all panelists and attendees so that everyone can see the responses. We have VISTAs starting all over the country today, and this is a good little chat activity to see what your fellow VISTAs, your colleagues, will be doing throughout the country in their communities. This can be a short, just a couple of words, or a few brief sentence, or a couple sentences if you like. We're seeing a mix of them come in, and yeah, trying to look through if my laptop will let me. It's love this part of the webinar and of the Vimo to see what everyone is going to be doing in their communities, like assisting substance abuse recovery centers and connect with lawyers to assist recovering individuals. Economic opportunity and as a program coordinator, providing affordable housing to target neighborhood and expanding communication with target neighborhoods as well. Building capacity for our GRACE organization. Let's see, as my laptop is freezing because the responses are coming in. I love it though. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Eric, as this, it looks like it just came in. Looking training specialists and creating literature to help healthcare professionals, some marketing, some volunteer recruitment as well, connecting members to community resources. Yeah, love it. I love it. Raising awareness of ACEs. Okay, and some are mentioning the towns and cities they're at. Love it. Please keep these coming in, and it really is remarkable to see the wide variety of responses of how much you'll be doing this year, and just how many different VAD activities each of you will be doing in your communities. It's amazing. So keep those coming. A lot of really wonderful, really great things mentioned in the chat. And we actually want to kind of take this little chat activity, this discussion a bit further. So let's talk about what happens as a result of your service. So, so for example, what if you plan a community meeting? We saw that in the chat. If you bring people together around a common issue, what is the impact of that activity?
And what if you write grants? Some of you talked about fundraising and grant writing and trying to bring money to your community. How will writing a grant actually make a difference in your community?
Or recruiting volunteers. We saw that a number of times in the chat come through just now. So what if you recruit volunteers for your project? Why specifically is it important to have other people help with your project?
And what if you write a lesson plan? What purpose does this lesson plan actually achieve? And how will it impact others within your community? Really and truly, the big question that we are asking is, what if? And we ask this because we want you to reflect on why you are serving. Take time to think about the reason behind your activities and the purpose of the things that you are doing. It'll help you understand and stay focused on the intended impact of your AmeriCorps service. And as you think about your own what if, when you answer this next question, what impact do you hope to make as an AmeriCorps member? And by impact, we mean what will be the end result rather than what will your activities look like? What will happen in your community when you are successful? Please keep thinking about this question as you go into your year of service. We know that our work is never done, and you are part of the battle against poverty. We are all in this together. Keeping the impact you can make in mind may help you get through tough times when you feel you may not be making a difference. And there's a lot of good responses coming in. I see decreased food insecurity in my community, a stronger and more interconnected community, which I think all of us would desire, and I'm sure your community members would desire as well. Families will have more permanent housing, a very, very critical thing to help people out of poverty, help rebuild, improving literacy rates and getting families and children off the streets. I see removing stigma from opioid addiction, more community outreach and improving food insecurity, a lot of food insecurity. More members will have easier access to food, new opportunities for children to increase their reading rates. There's a lot of really good responses. Chris, do you see other responses coming in?
Yeah, I totally agree. A lot of really good ones. And just to expand, seeing some on self-reliance for female refugees, allowing community members to be heard and feel empowered to go forward. Great, fits well with VISTA. Creating awareness and with providing fresh food recipes and gardening skills to community members. Great, yeah, and yeah, love these responses.
Definitely, and we love seeing them. So please keep them coming. It's great to see them. And honestly, these are truly inspiring statements. They mean a lot to us, and I'm sure they really mean a lot to you because these are the goals that you have to make an impact. And hopefully these are also helpful for you to see comments from your colleagues all over the country about what impact they hope to make in their service, just like you.
Great. So thanks again for those responses. And with all those great outcomes and activities and projects and communities all in mind, it's time to make you official AmeriCorps VISTA members. So we're at the Oath of Service part of our agenda today. And you may remember from the introductions and last week's Countdown to VISTA Service webinar that we are all located in different communities. Eric and I are working at home in Silver Spring and Greenbelt, Maryland. And here's a quick look at where you're serving across the country. So imagine, if you will, all of these AmeriCorps faces on screen with you taking the oath together. And before doing so, we're just going to discuss the oath of service. So the oath of service is a required and important step in becoming an AmeriCorps member. Because of its importance, we are going to pause the chat just for briefly to focus on the oath. If you have any questions at this time, you could still type those in the Q&A. The Q&A pod, you could still put your questions, and our team will either answer them as soon as we can or hold them for the end of the webinar during our Q&A session.
And it's very important for us that we document that you are taking your oath today. So to do that, there will be a very short form in the My AmeriCorps portal. It's good to know that this is a quick process, and we do have a few very important instructions to help you complete the oath form accurately, but not yet. First, once we end today's webinar, you will receive an automated email stating that your electronic oath has been unlocked in my.americorps.gov. At that time, not now, you'll be able to log into My AmeriCorps and complete and submit your form. If you don't see the email after 15 minutes after the webinar is over, please log into your account and complete the form. And if you were already logged in at that time, you may have to log out and log back in for the system to refresh and for the form to appear. Second, the instructions for completing the oath form are actually quite simple, and this is a very easy step for you, but it must be done correctly. So we will go over these simple instructions a little slowly, and just know that it's very worth the extra few minutes to make sure that you get this right and accurate today. Finally, please know that if anything is missing on the form, it will delay your enrollment as an AmeriCorps member, and it will delay your first living allowance payment, and we don't want that to happen. Since we are part of the federal payroll system, if that were to happen, it could take a couple of weeks to correct that error. So again, this is a simple and brief task for you today, and it has a great deal of importance in your enrollment, so we ask you to pay close attention. So here are the brief instructions, and you can write these down, you can take a picture, we'll post them in the chat later. For the date of your first day of service at your project site, you will enter today's date, January 19th, 2021, and in that format, 01192021. For the name of the CNCS or AmeriCorps official who administered and witnessed the oath, you will enter Chris Hawks. Chris, just like it's spelled, C-H-R-I-S, Hawks, H-A-W-K-E-S. And you'll want to take a very important note of the correct spelling just to make sure that you type this into the oath form correctly. Then, in the electronic signature field, you will type your full and legal name, which should be what matches the full name you used in your AmeriCorps application and what is on file in your My AmeriCorps account. Next, you will check the box that's under the electronic signature to verify that this is a legal signature on the electronic oath form. And then finally, don't forget, click the submit button. It will not go through unless you click submit. We know this is pretty straightforward, but please be sure to capture these details and have them handy when we log off today's webinar.
Okay, so now that sorry about that, it's my dog getting worked up. But now that the logistics are out of the way, let's consider the oath you're about to take. Now, this is the same oath taken by all federal employees up to and including the Vice President. Sorry, let me get that guy out. Sorry about that. So up to and including the Vice President, whereas the President's oath is a tiny bit different. Now, in the oath, it does include the phrase to defend the Constitution of the United States. So if we look at the word defend, this is not a call to arms. For some, in some positions, it may be. But for most of us, defense of the Constitution may just be the opposite of using arms. We're pledging to defend the document that contains our civil rights. It also includes the phrase against all enemies. So the word enemies. In the context of VISTA, the enemy is poverty. Here on this next slide, you can see the original oath on the left, along with an alternative version on the right side of the screen. So the alternative provides two changes that you may prefer. First, you may replace the word swear with the word affirm if you so choose. And second, you may omit the phrase "so help me God" at the end of the oath if you'd like. And I want to recognize that since we're all in different locations around the country, scattered in so many sites and so many locations, that we don't have the benefit of hearing each other's voices as we recite this. But it is pretty cool to know that you are about to take the oath with roughly just over 300, about 313 of your fellow AmeriCorps members, all doing the same thing at the same time all across America. So it may seem a little awkward to recite the oath aloud if you're alone in a room right now, or maybe you're not alone. Maybe you're teleserving and you have a roommate working there as well, or maybe you're on site and you have a new colleague that you just met at your side. But please remember that we are all right here with you, the 300 plus of us with you doing this at the same time. So please raise your right hand and recite the oath with me. So I am going to recite the alternative oath, and I'll speak it slow and just recite after me as we go along. Okay. I do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So, woohoo! You are now officially an AmeriCorps VISTA member. Congrats, congrats. Felicidades. Yeah, well, of course, now my dog isn't barking. He would be celebrating as well. He never listens to me. But congrats, everyone, on joining the newest group of AmeriCorps VISTA members. So we bring this to this slide afterwards as a reminder that this is what Eric was referencing earlier. So for the oath form, here's a screenshot to see what it will look like in the portal. It doesn't look like this yet, but about 15 minutes after the webinar, you'll get a link on the left-hand side that says VISTA Oath of Service in your member homepage. So as a reminder as well, as Eric mentioned, the oath form must be submitted with correct information by midnight tonight, midnight your time tonight. And just as a quick reminder, refresher to make sure you have the correct details, just a quick, another slide here with a quick review on the electronic oath instructions. So you'll put today's date as your first day serving, January 19th, 2021. Chris Hawks as the name of the CNCS or AmeriCorps official who administered the oath. Just that, remember that E, H-A-W-K-E-S, that E. I've been a burden my whole life having to explain that. And then you just, you sign under AmeriCorps VISTA members e-signature and check the box under electronic signature to constitute the e-signature as a legal signature on the oath form. It's really quick, just like Eric mentioned, really simple, but you'd be surprised. We get a lot of responses. So we do have this reminder slide here. Just make sure you have the information. You take a screenshot or just jot down the date and the spelling of my name, and that'll need to be submitted by 11:59 p.m. your time today. Just another note here that you will not get a response confirming submission of the oath form. So there's not like an automated email that returns. But once you submit it, you will be able to see the date stamp, a submitted oath date stamp in your My AmeriCorps account. You'll see it right below. The VMSU or VISTA Member Support Unit will contact you if we do not receive your oath form or if any corrections are needed. So it's kind of a no news is good news scenario as long as you submit it. If you hear back from us, we'll just ask you to either correct it or if you haven't submitted it, to remind you.
With you now officially sworn in, we just have a few final agenda items to cover before we say farewell today. As a reminder, the VISTA campus is and will be your friend, and it has a couple of features that are designed to help VISTAs connect. I know we mentioned this quickly last week, but if you haven't done so already, please check out the VISTA map and the VISTA forums. As you're getting settled into your service year, these are ways to reach out to your AmeriCorps colleagues early and often. And let's talk about identifying with your fellow VISTAs and AmeriCorps program overall. One of the greatest things about being part of AmeriCorps VISTA is showing off your AmeriCorps pride and connecting with other members because you can feel it. It's electric. See, the electric slide is always appropriate because you're so excited and electrified in your service. You never know where you may make a connection with someone who knows about the program. You can also put the AmeriCorps logo on your business card, in your email signature, and on your organization's website and brochures. The more visible you are, the more support you may be able to get for your project and the AmeriCorps VISTA program as a whole. That means more AmeriCorps members in communities doing the work we need to get done. The helpful links handout that you received includes links to business card templates, publications, and gear that you can use in your office and represent AmeriCorps in the field. And during your service, you will receive instructions on, I can't say that word, instructions on how to order your free AmeriCorps gear. The gear includes an AmeriCorps polo, lapel pin, tote bag, t-shirt, water bottle, and journal. The ordering instructions will be sent to your email, so please be sure to keep your email address up to date in your My AmeriCorps account. And lastly, please share any service or training photos with AmeriCorps headquarters and your fellow AmeriCorps members through the AmeriCorps Twitter and Facebook accounts. We love to share your stories, hear about what's going on, and of course, retweet your photos.
And here on the slide is another look at the resource list you received by email last week as an attachment. This is also available on the Starting VISTA page of the VISTA campus. So whether it's questions about sick leave or healthcare benefits, pay schedule, or policy, this is a great list that points you in the right direction. So for benefits questions, it has the contact for the benefits administrator directly. So you can contact them for any specific questions on the sheets. So we remind you here and on this webinar, in addition to last week's webinar, just because this is a good list to have on hand, whether you want to download or save a copy to your desktop, or it is updated here and there. So it might be better to save to bookmark the web page instead of saving a copy. But yeah, we just highly recommend it because it's a good list to know who to contact in which situation for what question you may have. And looking a little further ahead as you settle into your AmeriCorps year, be on the lookout for networks of current AmeriCorps members and alumni in your area. So they may be organized by AmeriCorps programs or maybe by state commissions. And you can find contacts at AmeriCorpsAlums.org. And along with building your AmeriCorps network, there will also be a number of training opportunities this year to help you continue to develop professionally. Our VISTA training unit staff deliver a series of monthly webinars for AmeriCorps VISTA members, leaders, project supervisors, and new sponsor staff. We have a member webinar coming up next week. In case you wish to register, you can register on the VISTA campus, the webinars page of the VISTA campus for our webinar next Thursday. That being said, we know you're busy. In your first couple of weeks of on-site orientation and training will be busy, so you may not be able to view them, but we have all these webinars recorded and on demand as well. And next, I want to point out some resources that may help you if you are teleserving full-time at the start of your service. On the VISTA campus, you can find a list of guides, videos, blogs, and articles that may be useful for you. And that's especially if you're not accustomed to teleworking or teleserving full-time. We also have a recorded webinar on demand that includes tips and tricks to telework successfully. You can find that on the member webinars page on the VISTA campus. The links to those pages on the campus are being posted to the chat, just there by Sabrina, the teleservice resources and the teleservice webinar. Okay, so we're getting towards the end. We'd ask that you please take just a few moments to give us feedback on the webinar. Again, we're constantly reviewing the evaluations, the content, and trying to make it better for new AmeriCorps members as we go forward. So we take your feedback very seriously and dive into the details to try to look for what worked, what we should expand on, what maybe didn't work, and how we can improve it. So we just ask that you complete the short evaluation. There's a link in the chat right now. And similar to last week, I believe it will pop up as you close out of Zoom as well. But We thank you in advance for your feedback, and we put that link in the chat just because we're going to go over some questions. So you might be able to fill that out while we spend a couple minutes on the Q&A. So just spend a few minutes to see what questions may have come in that we can see if we can address. And let's see if...
Well, I'll start with one that I think is applicable to a lot of people. There were several questions that came in saying, I didn't know who my supervisor is, or I'm not sure who to contact. Well, hopefully by now you have at least a general idea. You should have been able to report to someone at your site today or virtually if you were serving remotely. Usually the supervisor oftentimes is the person that interviewed you or has been emailing you up until today, telling you what time to start and what you need to do to start. If for some reason you still haven't met that person or they haven't introduced themselves to you, certainly after the webinar, see if that person is around, either in person or virtually, but if not, you can reach out to your AmeriCorps regional office, and you can reach them again by the 2-letter state abbreviation at cns.gov. So if you're serving in Florida, you could reach out to fl@cns.gov and just let them know your name, that you're starting service with this January 19th VISTA member orientation, and that you need to know who your supervisor is.
And I saw a lot of questions come in. I think I know Andy and Kyle are answering quite a few of these questions on a one-on-one basis. But just to address it, because I saw it so many times, there were several asking, how can I sign up for the healthcare benefit? Great question, but it will be in about a week. So probably like Monday or Tuesday of next week or so, early next week. So once we get your oath and the paperwork is all processed, then we'll send that information over to IMG, who's the healthcare administrator, and they'll send you an email to the email address you have in My AmeriCorps. So that's another reason why we ask you to keep that email address up to date. So you should see that early next week. And that's similar with a few other things like your VISTA service letter that you can access in your My AmeriCorps account. That'll be available in about a week. Same with applying for forbearance. If you selected the education award and you have student loans that you want to put in forbearance, you'll be able to do that early next week. Go into your My AmeriCorps account to see that education award link to request the forbearance. And on that note, we had that question earlier on, you can wait until the 10th month to switch from the education award to the cash stipend, but you can't do the opposite. So if you have the cash stipend selected right now, like right now, today, this hour is the last time you can change your end of service award if you have the cash stipend selected as your end of service award. So if you're unsure, again, if you have any doubts on which one to choose, we recommend you select the education award for now. That way you still have those 10 months to change it. But this is like final call on that.
And I see there's a lot of questions that came in about healthcare. We won't answer every single one because some of them are specific, but I do want to recommend, as Chris said, one, in about a week or two, you'll get an email from the International Medical Group to select which benefit applies to your situation. But I would strongly recommend, in the meantime, go to the website AmeriCorpsVista.imglobal.com and take a look at both of the benefits, whichever one applies to you. And each one has its own member guide. And that guide gives very specific detail about what it covers. If you were to go to a pharmacy or a medical facility, what word you would use, so they help understand what type of coverage we have. So definitely go to that website and check out the member guide so that it can at least give you more specific details to your individual questions. We're happy to answer some of the general ones, but a lot of the ones that came in are somewhat specific. And then one other I'll just quickly say one other benefit in terms of the early service coursework. We may not have mentioned it, but they're not required. They are very strongly recommended. So those 6 or 7 items we talked about, the 13 lessons of poverty, the minute intro, the VAD worksheet, they're not officially required, but we do really recommend that you do those in conjunction with your supervisor because they should hopefully help set you up for success in your first couple of weeks of service.
And I just saw a question come in, and it's a pretty common question about timesheets. So timesheets will be submitted at your site with your supervisor. VISTA headquarters, we don't track your hours. We track your number of days, that 365 days. But so if you have any questions on how to submit your timesheets, that should be something to bring up this week with your supervisor. That'll be the same with tracking your leave time as well. You would go through your supervisor and whatever mechanism they may have, because it can vary from project to project.
And there are a couple of questions, and Chris, I can't remember if you answered them around outside employment. Just remember that if you currently have a part-time job or are anticipating getting one, you do need to fill out the outside employment request form. The easiest way is just to go to the Vista campus website and search outside employment. It gives you all the information and legal information you need to know, and then it gives you access to complete the form. And that could be whether it's a regular part-time job or periodic income that you're getting for small jobs you have. You would need to fill out the form just so that it's on file and we have a record of it.
That's a great reminder, Eric, too. Similarly, with the outside employment form that Eric was mentioning, there was a question earlier on the teleservice form as well. So if you're teleserving, whether it's full-time teleserve or maybe just 1 or 2 days a week, and the other days you're going into the office, either way, you'll have to complete the teleservice form. You can find that on the VISTA campus, similar to how Eric explained. The search feature will bring you to it, but there was a link in today's helpful links handout that'll link you to that teleservice form to complete. You'll just have to sign it, whether you can e-sign it and then send it to your supervisor, who will forward it on to your regional office. And I saw 1 or 2 others who mentioned they didn't receive the email this morning with the handouts. Yeah, it could have gone, maybe it went to your spam filter or maybe a different email address, or maybe I missed it. I think I caught everyone who was registered, but for any reason you did not get it, that's okay. I can resend. Just let me know. You can either email myself, which is chhawkes, CHAWKES @cns.gov, or to Vista Training. That's our Vista Training email is where it was sent from, vistatraining @cns.gov. And see it, maybe 2 other questions here, but I know Kyle and Andy are answering those. I don't see any other questions that really pertain to everyone, unless you notice anything, Eric, or seen anything in the chat. I'm taking that silence either as a no, or Eric is literally electric sliding in his home right now. I choose to believe the latter. I will say, like, if you do have any questions, we're gonna have this webinar open to answer these questions individually in the Q&A pod. So if any come in, we'll continue to answer them throughout the end. But out of respect for everyone's time, we'll move on to the final few slides. So first, thank you for the questions that you brought up and for your participation throughout in the chat responses, the poll responses throughout the webinar today. We love them. We love to hear from you, and we certainly hope today's discussion helped you build some new connections or clarify some of the complexity of starting your AmeriCorps VISTA service. And again, hopefully it helped you know where you can find information on particular questions that might pop up throughout your year of service. And of course, we have sworn you in as official AmeriCorps VISTA members. So welcome, welcome to the VISTA community. Just a reminder there that oath form will be available, should be 15 minutes after the webinar, so around 4:45 p.m. Eastern time. So look for that. And I think Eric mentioned it, but if you're already signed in to your My AmeriCorps account, you may have to log out and log back in to see the oath form. It's just kind of a quirk with the system. So just a heads up that if you get an email notification that it's there and you don't see it, you might just have to either wait a couple minutes or log out and log back in. And let's see, before we depart, we want to leave you with another quote from President Lyndon Johnson. This was also shared at the launch of the VISTA program. So, on your idealism and on your success rests much of our hope for the final elimination of poverty in our American life. And to that, I would add that your service and commitment to community change as an AmeriCorps VISTA gives me hope that our country can eliminate poverty, and in that, the injustices that cause and perpetuate it. Thank you so much for serving as an AmeriCorps VISTA and for your participation today. We wish you all the success in the world this year. This will conclude today's webinar. Again, we'll stay on to answer any questions in the Q&A pod, but otherwise, thank you for your service to your communities. Thank you so much.